I didn't want the job. I just needed the paycheck. I stood outside the towering glass building with my son's tiny hand wrapped in mine. His fingers were cold, even though I'd tucked his little fist inside my oversized hoodie sleeve. It was 6:42 a.m. I had barely slept. The only thing louder than my heartbeat was my son's stomach growling. I looked up at the skyscraper, Lexwood International. They called it the Ice Castle, probably because the woman who ran it was rumored to be colder than December in Chicago. CEO, Vivian Lexwood, rich, ruthless, reclusive. She was the kind of woman who made grown men cry in boardrooms and fired senior execs for typos. And I was just a single dad, applying to clean her bathrooms. The security guard at the front desk looked at my worn sneakers and wrinkled shirt and sighed. "You sure you're in the right place?" "I'm here for the janitor job. Night shift," he raised an eyebrow, then gestured toward the elevators. "15th floor, human resources. Good luck." I turned to my son. "Stay right here on this bench, okay? Don't move. I'll be right back." He nodded bravely, clutching his old teddy bear. The bear was missing an ear. So was I, in a way. The HR interview was short. They didn't care about my degree in literature. They didn't ask why I left my last job. They didn't even blink when I said I had a child. "You clean?" the woman asked. "Like my life depends on it," I said. She handed me a badge. "Welcome to Lexwood. Uniforms in the locker. Clock in at 7 p.m. sharp." I started that night. The place was spotless to begin with. But I scrubbed harder than necessary. Floors, desks, even the baseboards. My hands cracked from the bleach. My feet throbbed. But each time I thought of stopping, I remembered the note from my son's school. "No lunch packed again today. Night. 4 is when I saw her. Vivian Lexwood." She moved like a storm cloud in heels. Graceful, powerful, untouchable. I was polishing the glass outside her office when she stepped out, coffee in one hand, tablet in the other. Our eyes met. Hers were cold blue, Arctic. "You missed a spot," she said flatly, pointing at a smudge I couldn't even see. I scrambled to wipe it. "I don't pay for half work," she added before disappearing back into her glass box. She didn't even give me a second glance. I hated her, or so I thought. The next night everything changed. I brought my son with me. I had no choice. His babysitter had bailed. He promised to stay quietly in the janitor closet with his coloring books. But children don't understand silence the way adults do. He got hungry. He got scared. He went looking for me, and he ended up falling asleep outside Vivian Lexwood's office, curled up beside the mop bucket. I nearly had a heart attack when I found him, but she had found him first. Vivian stood nearby, arms folded, looking not angry, but curious. "This yours?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. What's his name?" "Leo," I whispered, cradling my sleeping boy. Her gaze softened for just a second. A blink. "You should feed him," she said, then turned and walked away. That night, when I got home, I found a brown paper bag inside the janitor's closet. It had a warm ham sandwich, an apple juice, and a small sticky note. "Kids shouldn't go to sleep hungry." I stared at it, stunned. Was this the same ice queen the world feared, or was there something broken beneath all that glass and steel? The next night I went to work early, on purpose, not to clean, but to see if the note had been real, or if it had just been a dream conjured by exhaustion and hunger. It was real. There it was, another brown paper bag on the janitor's shelf. Same neat handwriting, same delicate initials. For Leo. V inside, a thermos of hot soup, crackers, and a small carton of chocolate milk. I just stood there staring at it, unable to move. For a man who'd felt invisible for so long, those 3 letters felt like a warm hand on my shoulder. She remembered his name. That night, Leo smiled bigger than I'd seen in weeks. And I cried quietly in the supply closet, while he sipped soup with swinging legs. For the next 6 nights, the pattern continued. Every night, food. Every night the same careful, quiet note. Never more than 3 words. Keep going. He's lucky. Don't give up. But not once did she say anything to me in person. If we passed in the hallway, she'd barely glance my way. It was as if she could only be human. When no one was watching. Then came the night everything changed. It was almost 3 a.m. I was wiping down the windows near the executive floor when I heard something strange from her office. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't typing. It was sobbing. I paused. The door was half open. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. There she was, Vivian Lexwood, the woman they called the Ice Queen, sitting on the floor in her $1,000 dress, barefoot, tears streaming down her cheeks, mascara smeared, wine spilled on the carpet. Her perfect world had cracked, and I saw the woman behind the crown. Before I could step away, she looked up and saw me. For the first time, she didn't flinch or frown. She didn't bark an order or give a cold stare. She just whispered, "Do you ever get tired of pretending you're okay?" I froze. The mop handle slipped from my hands and hit the floor with a dull thud. She didn't move. Neither did I. "Then," I answered, voice barely a whisper. "Every single day." She laughed, not mockingly, just like someone who hadn't in years. Then she said, "Sit, but only if you don't talk. I just don't want to be alone right now." So I sat. We didn't speak for the next hour, just 2 broken people sitting quietly in a glass office high above the world, surrounded by city lights, shattered hearts, and secrets we hadn't told anyone else. When I stood up to leave, she said something I never expected. "Leo's lucky to have a father like you." I turned back. "And you don't have to eat dinner alone every night, you know." She looked away. "Good night, Mr. Bennett." "Good night, Ms. Lexwood." That night, I didn't cry. That night, for the first time in years, I felt seen. Be continued in part 3. She invited him to dinner, just to talk. But behind her cold walls, a story of pain and silence was waiting to be told, and the janitor wasn't ready for what he'd hear. 3 nights passed. Vivian didn't speak to me again. No notes, no food bags, nothing. I thought maybe I had overstepped. Maybe I'd seen too much. Maybe that crack in her armor had been temporary. But then, on the 4th night, I found a folded envelope taped inside the janitor closet, my name written on it in the same delicate script. Inside was a typed note, no handwriting this time. "Dinner, tonight, 10 p.m. Conference room 17B. Bring Leo, no cleaning supplies. V. My heart pounded." I must have read that note 20 times. I thought about throwing it away. I thought about ignoring it. But then I looked at Leo, who had fallen asleep on the break room floor, his arms around his teddy bear and his stomach growling once again. So I didn't throw it away. I ironed my best shirt, still wrinkled, gave Leo a quick bath in the tiny sink, and at 9:59 p.m. I knocked on the door of conference room 17B. The room wasn't what I expected. No paperwork. No briefcases, no boardroom pressure, just a white tablecloth, 2 covered trays, and Vivian Lexwood, wearing a simple cardigan over her usual high-power outfit, her heels kicked off under the table. She didn't look like a CEO. She looked tired, human. "Come in," she said softly. Leo clung to my hand, wide-eyed. "Is she a queen?" he whispered. Vivian smiled. "The real kind. Only on weekdays." Leo giggled. She lifted the tray lids, spaghetti and meatballs on one side, chicken nuggets and fries on the other. "Hope he's not allergic to ketchup." "He's not," I said, stunned. He'll eat anything that doesn't come from a vending machine. Vivian poured Leo a glass of apple juice, then water for me. Then she sat. Silence stretched between us. Then she spoke. Her voice quieter than I'd ever heard. I used to eat in this room with my brother, every Thursday, until he passed. I looked at her. "Oh," I said gently. I'm so sorry." "He was the kind one," she whispered. "The soft one. I was the fighter. He would have liked you." I didn't know what to say, so I said the only true thing I had. "I think you're kind too. You just hide it better." She looked at me with something unreadable in her eyes. Not flirtation. Not pity. Recognition. Like someone had finally seen through the fog. Leo, oblivious to the tension, slurped noodles with joyful abandon. When he was done, he yawned and leaned against me. I tucked him into my arms. "I should put him down," I said, standing. Vivian stood too. "Wait," she said. I turned back. "Would it be inappropriate if I said I look forward to seeing you each night now?" She asked, voice shaking slightly. "That may be. This glass palace is too quiet without the sound of your mop." My throat tightened. I'd say, "It's the same for me." She smiled. A real one. The kind that made her look years younger. Then, she did something no one expected from a woman like her. She took Leo's teddy bear, sewed the missing ear back on with a tiny sewing kit from her drawer. No words, just quiet stitching. When she handed it back to him, Leo whispered, "Thank you, Queen Lady." Vivian blinked fast, but a tear still escaped. "You're welcome, little knight," she whispered back. As I left that night, I felt something shift in the air. Like the skyscraper had exhaled. Like a heart had opened. And I realized something terrifying. I was falling. For her, not the CEO, not the boss, but the woman behind the crown. And I had no idea if she could ever fall for someone like me. The next few days passed like a dream I didn't want to wake from. Vivian began leaving her office door open. Not wide, just enough that I could see a light, a shadow, a sign that I wasn't invisible anymore. Sometimes she'd pass by the hallway while I mopped. Sometimes she'd leave warm cocoa for Leo. Once she even asked how he liked school. Tiny cracks, tiny steps. But then came the night she asked me to stay after hours. No note, no invite, just her voice through the quiet hall. "Mr. Bennett, would you stay for a moment?" My heart skipped. Leo was asleep in the break room again. I tucked him under a blanket. Then walked slowly into her office. Vivian stood by the window, arms crossed, staring out at the city. The skyline glittered like glass shards under moonlight. "I hate this view," she said, without turning. I blinked. Most people would kill for it. I know. And most people don't know what it's like to be completely alone, surrounded by everything. Her voice cracked. I stayed silent. She finally turned to face me, but not as the CEO, not as the untouchable woman in heels and silence, but as a daughter, a sister, a woman who had carried more than any heart should. "You know, Vivian Lexwood isn't my real name." I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" She gave a hollow smile. "My birth name was Sophia Velez, but when my father was sent to prison for fraud, no one would hire me. No school would take me seriously. I changed my name, buried my past. I rebuilt everything from zero, alone." I couldn't speak. My chest tightened. She stepped closer. Everyone thought I was cold, ruthless, a perfectionist. But they didn't see the girl, who slept in train stations, who begged for night shifts, who studied in janitor closets because libraries were full. I finally found my voice. "And now, they all call you a queen." She let out a bitter laugh. A cold queen with a marble heart. There was a long pause, then I stepped forward. You're not marble, you're molten. You've just been holding the fire in too long. Our eyes met. In that moment, there was no janitor, no CEO, just two battle-worn souls who had climbed their own mountains, quietly, invisibly. She reached for something in her desk drawer, a small velvet box, opened, and inside a silver bracelet, old and a little scratched. It had a tiny name etched in it. Sophia, I whispered. She nodded. My mother gave it to me. I haven't worn it in years. I was afraid it would make me soft. I looked at her, softer than ever. Maybe soft isn't a weakness, I said. Maybe it's the bravest thing in the world. She closed the box gently. Why are you like this? She asked quietly. Like what? Kind, gentle, still human, even after what life's done to you? I smiled. Because Leo watches everything I do, and I want him to know. Men can cry, and still stand. Love, and still lead. Fall, and still rise. Vivian blinked, eyes shining. She didn't reply. But when I turned to leave, she stopped me with 3 words. Stay a little. So I did. And in that silent office, with 2 paper cups of cocoa, no guards, no armor, we didn't just share a moment. We began to share healing. I thought we could keep it hidden. The glances, the warmth, the late-night cocoa and quiet conversations. I thought we were careful. But secrets, like feelings, have a way of slipping through cracks. It started small. A security guard saw me leaving her office after midnight. A receptionist noticed Leo with a hand-stitched lunchbox that clearly wasn't mine. Then came the whispers. The janitor's getting special treatment. Did you see how she smiled at him? I heard she lets his kids sleep in the break room. I tried to ignore them. But one morning when I entered the lobby with Leo holding my hand, the elevator doors opened, and there she was. Vivian, hair tied back, simple blouse, no bodyguards, and all eyes turned to her. No one said a word, but everyone watched. Would she pretend she didn't know me? Would she walk past with that CEO Frost? I held my breath. Leo looked up at her innocently. Hi, Queen Lady. Silence. Then, Vivian smiled. Not a forced, formal smile, but a real one. She walked straight toward us, calm, unapologetic. Sure, and right there in front of everyone. She bent down, tucked Leo's hair behind his ear, and kissed his forehead. You dropped this, little knight, she said, handing him his teddy bear. Then she straightened, looked me in the eye, and gently took my hand in hers. Come, I'll walk you up. You could hear jaws hitting the marble floor. The CEO holding hands with the janitor, in broad daylight. The whispers turned into gasps. But she didn't let go. She held on tighter. In the elevator I whispered, You didn't have to do that. She looked up at me, proud. I wanted to. I'm tired of hiding what gives me peace. I didn't know how to respond. I only knew that I didn't deserve her. And yet, she never made me feel small. When we stepped into her office, she pulled the blinds, sat beside me. They'll talk, I said. Let them, she replied. They'll say you've lost your edge, she smiled. Let them say I finally found my heart. My chest burned. I had never felt seen like this before. Not by pity, not as charity, but as an equal. A man. A father. That evening, Leo drew her a picture, stick figures, one tall, one small. The tall one wore a crown. The small one held a mop. Over it he wrote, My queen and my dad. She framed it, hung it right next to her MBA from Harvard. But the higher you fly, the colder the wind. The next morning, a board member called an emergency meeting. Someone filed a formal complaint, allegations of fraternizing below rank. She was summoned, so was I. Vivian looked at me calmly before she went in. No matter. What happens in that room, she whispered. I don't regret a thing. The boardroom was ice. 11 men and 2 women sat behind a long table. Sharp suits, sharper eyes. They looked at me like I was filth tracked in from the service elevator. Vivian stood tall in front of them, unapologetic, unshaken. The chairman, Mr. Halberd, cleared his throat. Miss Lexwood, are you in a personal relationship with this employee? Silence. Vivian didn't blink. Yes. Gasps. A few shuffled their papers. One even coughed to cover his shock. And you admit to letting his child stay on the premises after hours? Yes. Is this wise? He's a janitor. Vivian stepped forward. He's also a war veteran, a single father, and the reason the 27th floor fire didn't spread. Check the footage from last Tuesday. He pulled the alarm before security even responded. That shut them up. But not for long. Mr. Halberd narrowed his eyes. Be that as it may, we must maintain professional boundaries. Your attachment is now a liability. Vivian's eyes sparked. A liability? She echoed. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a flash drive. This contains a proposal draft that saved the company $3.2 million. Know who first saw the building issue? Not legal, not finance. Him. She pointed at me. While mopping. He noticed something everyone missed. She turned, looked every board member in the eye. He's not my weakness. He's proof that empathy sees what power overlooks. A heavy silence followed. Then came the bombshell. If the board insists I choose between this position and being honest about who I care about, she placed her CEO badge on the table. Then I resign. Gasps again. One board member stood. Vivian, wait. But she was already walking. Out. Calm. Fierce. She passed me in the hallway and whispered, let's go home. Months later, we opened a small tech consultancy together, L&B Solutions. Lexwood and Bennett taught me the business side. I taught her how to laugh without guilt. Leo now runs through office halls like they're playgrounds. And every morning, I brew her coffee. Every night, she tucks in my son. One day, I found her sitting with Leo on the floor, drawing with crayons. He said, you know, Queen Lady, you're the best mom I never had. She cried, hard, and I knelt beside her and whispered, maybe it's time to stop being everyone's queen and just be my queen. She didn't answer. She just leaned in and kissed me. Final scene, the old company sent her a letter last week. An apology. An offer to return as CEO. She smiled, folded it, and said, I already have everything I need. And then she walked into the office, wearing her old name tag, Sophia Valles, co-founder. Not to prove anything, just to be free.